Hi, folks. Steve Urban here, founder and CEO at recruiting firm Riderflex. If you enjoyed today's guest interview, please give it a like and be sure to subscribe to the Riderflex podcast. And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Try the #1 marketing platform for small business. Everything you need from design to marketing to CRM. Learn more at marketing360.com. Marketing 360. Fuel your brand.
Chris Krehmeyer on the Riderflex podcast. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Are you in St. Louis today in Missouri?
I am in St. Louis, Missouri. That's my home, and that's where we do our work.
You grew up there, right? Have you lived there your whole life, Missouri?
Not most of my life. My dad was in the service. Both my parents are from St. Louis, but my dad was in the service, so we traveled around a lot. I was born in Staten Island, New York. And then we lived along the East Coast, a couple of places, and actually lived overseas for almost 3 years. Lived in Germany on a little island called Sylt off the North Sea. So I've been told I spoke German before I spoke English, even though I don't remember a word of it. People say it's locked up back here in the recesses of my little scary brain. So who knows? One day I may fall and hit my head and start speaking German. Who knows?
Interesting. But you went to high school and college in Missouri.
I went to high school and college here in St. Louis. I went to a place called University City High School. We think one of the best high schools here in the entire Midwest, and helped ground me in terms of how I kind of come to the work. And then I somehow got into Washington University here in St. Louis and got my undergraduate degree in urban studies from Washington University.
I saw that. Tell me, so your dad was a career serviceman?
He was, well, my dad was he's been gone a fair amount of time now. He was a stubborn German guy. So he stayed in the service 17 years, right? Close to retirement, but his commanding officer somehow rubbed him wrong. So he just quit. Yeah. That's kind of gives you a flavor of who my dad was. Then he wound up working a couple of places, but landed at McDonnell Douglas and then Boeing here back in St. Louis. So we moved back here when I was in the fourth grade. So my dad was an engineer, not by education, but by the work he did his whole life. And then my older brother is an engineer by education and kind of what he does for a career. So I was the youngest child. And when I told my dad I was getting a degree in urban studies, I think his direct quote was, "What the hell is that?" and what kind of job are you going to get, son? And I said, "Dad, I don't know, but that engineering gene just kind of flew right past me." So my two jobs as a kid at home, on the weekends, was to hold the other end of stuff for my dad and then go get him a beer. So I was really good at both of those. I was top notch at both of those.
Gotcha. So he died pretty young, huh? He
died at 66. So he's been gone 20 plus years now, I think.
Okay. And how about your mom?
Mom's still here. She just turned 83. She's starting to fail a little bit, regrettably, but she's still happy. And she went into an assisted living facility about 7-8 months ago, close by. So I literally see her just about every day. I try to stop by because it's near my home. So I swing by and try to say hello and chit chatting on the weekends. I try to get her out of the facility, bring her to my place, and break a little bread and have family and some of my friends come by to see her, and it always brightens up her day.
That's good. Good. Okay, very good. And how about yourself? Married, kids grown? What's the status?
I am not married. I have 3 grown-up children. Nick is 33, Jackson is 26, and Sophia, the princess, just turned 24. Actually, I spent the Memorial Day weekend with her. She's in Columbus, Ohio, because she went to school there, and then my 2 boys live here in St. Louis. So yeah, three wonderful kids, and they're all good, kind, and decent people that I'm proud to be their dad. It's the best thing I've ever done. I've done some pretty cool stuff in my life, but being a dad is the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Are you a grandpa yet?
Not yet.
Oh man, anytime soon? Anybody close?
There's probably 2 I really don't want right now, but there's the third one maybe.
Okay. All right. So no grandpa yet. And okay, so you're single. Wow. All right. So were you married for, but I hope you don't mind me asking. Are you married
No,
for a
no,
long time?
yeah. No, I was married 2 different times, so
Okay.
I'm good at some stuff. Apparently, marriage is not one of them. So, well, I doubt there'll be a third time down down that particular path. But yeah, no, I am single, and I just turned 60, so it's an interesting time of life to figure out where you're going, and what you're looking for, and so we'll be on this journey, and we'll see where it takes me.
Does it suck to be single at 60 right now, especially we growing up, because you grew up in the 70s, 80s, and now you're single and people use these apps and websites and stuff. Is it weird? I don't know. Are you doing, how are you doing with it? Is it kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, look. At the end of the day, would I rather be in a beautiful, happy relationship? Yeah, but it's okay. Look, I'm in pretty good shape. I do okay. So
Yeah, you look good, by the way. You look good. You
I
look
get,
great.
I,
Yeah, you look
I,
great.
I,
You
I appreciate that. So I get look. I get some attention, which is also good for the ego. So
I love it.
we'll see. We'll
I
see.
love it.
Again,
I love
look.
it. Are the 40-year-olds at the gym? Are they looking your way still? And you're like, okay, I see you. I see you.
There's a couple, maybe.
That's okay. It's so great. I had this, I went camping with a good friend of mine. He's 60. I'm 55 and he's 60. And he's in good shape, just like you, good looking guy. And he's been married a couple of times. He responded exactly how you just responded. He said, look, here's the deal. He goes, if you force me to choose, would I like to be in a great relationship and married? The answer is yes. But I'm not rushing it. I'm not forcing it. In the meantime, I'm having a good time and I'm traveling and I'm dating. But isn't it interesting? I do think most men, the majority of men, we do want to be in a loving long-term relationship that's happy and fulfilled, right? Like the whole dating and I got a different girl every week and everything that gets old. That gets old.
I did that when I was 18 and 21. Yeah, it was okay back then. It was a different time, right? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. Look, I think what you find the older you get is you want to be happy,
Yes.
right? You want to feel fulfilled, and you want to be with a partner that that you share your respective lives together, and you at this stage of life, there's whole lot of things that aren't quite as important as maybe I thought they were years ago. So I don't have a whole lot of patience for bad energy and negative energy, and move along. We got life is short, particularly once you turn 60, because none of the birthdays before 60 gave me pause. I'm like, yeah, it's just a number. 60, I'm like, shit, that's a different number, right? So I had to do a little more ruminating on that one than the other ones. And at the end of the day, look, there's no guarantees. I'm in good shape, but that doesn't mean tomorrow could be my last revolution, right? So we'll see. So find your space. I love my work. I love my family. I have a great cohort of friends of mine, buddies that I've known since grade school and high school. And we're on a daily text chain, and we're always hanging out, and we're getting together here next month sometime. So I'm trying to find value in what really the important things in life are. The people you love in your life, the people you care about, and can you make a difference each and every day in somebody else's life?
How are you staying in shape? And what's your hobby? What's your activity? What's your routine? I'm curious because you're in pretty good shape for 60.
I work out 6 days a week, and I do it at home because going to gym is too much time. I don't have. I'm an impatient kind of guy, so I do stretching, yoga, weightlifting, and stationary bike.
How's the yoga? I mean, is it? Are you a fan?
It's a real deal. I used to think it was bogus. I'm like, what is that? No, it's the real deal. If you do it and press yourself, it's reshaped my body. I've always was in decent shape. But I've been doing yoga for about 3 or 4 years now, and it'll reshape your body. It'll tone you up in a different way, than anything else that I've ever done. So yeah, I'm a convert. I used to raise an eyebrow saying that's bogus. You can't. What is that?
Yeah.
No, if you do it right and you push yourself, particularly on all the core work, that's hard stuff.
All right. I'm thinking about trying it. By the way, hey, listen, my wife's got family in Missouri and I grew up in Oklahoma. So I know there's some high school buddies that that you're still friends with. When you told them you're doing yoga, they're probably like, what? What?
Yeah. So, right. But here's the deal. They all want to look like I do. So
that's right.
And I promise you, there's a couple of them that don't look nothing like me right now.
Right. That's true. That's so true.
That might be working for that dude. So yeah, actually we've gotten a couple buddies who need to drop a few pounds as we all get to 60 that we've been like, hey man, you need to take care of yourself now. So let's get healthy.
I'm curious. So tell me about the urban studies real quick. And before we get into what you're doing for a living, tell me why was that a passion for you? Why did you want to go down that route? Was there something that triggered you or steered you in that path early on as a young man to want to do that? I'm curious.
Yeah. So, there was no great epiphany, right? So in my undergrad, I was trying to figure out, okay, what the heck am I going to do, right? So I wandered around, took a whole bunch of stuff. I thought about maybe going to business school. I thought about going to law school. I took the LSATs, right? So I kept trying to find something that would pique my interest, and literally, and I was also looking for a couple of classes to get some easy A's too, right? So there's Intro to Urban Studies. I'm like, that sounds like I might be able to handle that one. So I took it, and quite frankly, it was interesting. I'm like, all right, this is some interesting stuff that I did not think a lot about, because I had no background knowledge in anything like that, right? We didn't talk about, societal issues a lot. My dad was a man of few words. So if you got like 2 consecutive sentences, it was like a Shakespearean soliloquy, right? He just wasn't into long conversations.
All those guys born in the 30s, anybody born between 30 and 40, they were not talkers. They're not talkers.
No. literally no. He was born 36. He's like, nope. My dad was born in 37. It's like trying to have a conversation with him was painful. No. So again, I didn't come from a background of this, and we were working class folks, right? My family didn't volunteer at the soup kitchen or anything like that as a kid. I mean, I didn't live in a single family house until I bought one, right? So again, it was like I didn't recognize. Oh, we didn't have a lot, right? It's that same old adage we hear from a lot of other people, right? I never went wanting, right? But I didn't realize. And look, it's a different day and age, right? Like when I turned 16, I bought my own car with my own money because I had a job.
Yeah.
Right. I look at my kids now, and I'm like, I bought all of them a car. I'm like, what the hell happened to me? Right. I couldn't even ask my dad for $5, right? It was just not how it worked back then. Right. Gotcha. He's like, or like, make chicken fingers for dinner in addition to the regular meal. No, we didn't do that. No. My dad said, look, if you don't like the meal, you go get a job and get your own dinner. If you don't like it, then you can move out too.
Completely different world on how fathers manage their children. My dad was the exact same way. First of all, you ate whatever was on the plate. You didn't complain. All of it. Yeah. All of that. Yeah. And if you didn't like it, pack your shit and go.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. No, 100%. So again, for me, the classes were interesting. I grew up in a very integrated community, which served me well. I think just in general in life, to be around people that all don't look like me. And I had friends that looked different than me, that grew up different than me. So look, it was a great grounding, and I started kind of connecting a few dots. I'm like, oh, okay, now I kind of see why, some folks live in that part of town, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And why in my neighborhood there aren't that many people of color. And if I go to some of the neighborhoods where my buddies grew up, there ain't no black folks there, right? So again, some of the dots just started connecting for me. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's very good. And then right out of school, so you went to work for the housing authority, like right out of college, didn't you?
Yep. It's my first job. Now, I didn't get it immediately out of college. And my dad, I got this fancy degree in all my student loans and I couldn't find a job right away. So my dad was like, told you. So it took me about six months after graduation to get this job, making $16,800 a year. And I thought that was the best thing ever.
1986, just for reference, in 1986 is what Chris is talking about here. 16 grand a year.
1986. I was thrilled, man. I could pay rent. I'm like, I'm good. Look, Steve, I used to think if I made $1,000 for every year old that I was, come on.
You were king. You were king.
I'm retired making 65K, man. I'm like, what? I have more money that I know what to do with. So I got to the housing authority and was tickled to have the job. And that's really where a lot of my learnings and really kind of foundational underpinnings about, the organization that I've been so proud to lead for almost 30 years now really came from. And I wasn't smart enough back then to know I was learning. I just kind of, and after the fact, I'm like, oh, that's what I picked up back there. So no, it was a great experience. I spent 7 years there, which was wonderful. And again, this is for folks kind of starting their career, because sometimes I get young folks asking me, well, what was your career trajectory? Well, like, one, I didn't have one, right? I needed a job. I need to pay my bills, but I needed something that interested me, right? And that gave me a little juice and gave me a little excitement, and helped me try to understand, the field that I got in. So for my first three years at the housing authority, all I did every day was help people get certified to be on the Section 8 rental assistance program.
I see.
Now, Section 8 gets such a bad rap in terms of the stigma behind it. But it was single moms trying to raise their kids. Okay. Right. And what I saw, oversimplified, but what I saw was kind of the two faces of poverty. One, there was a mom who was just absolutely thrilled. Like, okay, if I get this housing assistance, I have a roof over my head. And boy, things for me and my kids are going to be great. This is the one thing I needed to be my springboard for the kind of success and for the dreams and aspirations that I have, for my family. The second cohort, again, oversimplified, but the second cohort was folks who've just been beat up. Life is just, too hard. Whether it's systemic racism, whether it's the systems don't work well for poor people, which they still don't in 2022, or poor decisions, or all the amalgam of stuff. They were just worn out. And they're like, look, if I got a roof over my head, I'm done. This is all I can do. So I was fascinated by both those two subsets, right? One, how do you keep fanning the flames of those folks who are really excited and knew there was something better out there for them? How do you tell them, yeah, you can do this, right? Keep working hard, there are better things out there for you and your kids. And for that second group, how do you literally help, pick them up and dust them off and say, no, there's more for you. You can do more than this. And there are people out there who care about you and will support you along the way. You have to do your part. But again, don't be satisfied with this. There's more for you and for your kids.
And you moved up into several different positions. Did you do different things there at the housing authority?
So I also learned, I did the Section 8 stuff for about 3 years. And then for the next 4 years, I ran the rehab department, where we gave out grants for private developers to rehab homes to rent to families. So I learned about housing development there. So again, picked up some skill sets. Both the first 3 years was just learning about the population we were served. And the next 4 years is understanding about kind of the whole idea about housing development, what it takes, and structures and financing and all those things.
And I see. And then beyond housing, was that, I think it started in the 70s. So it was already going, and then they recruited you, or you knew somebody, or what? How? Talk to us about,
so I knew the organization from my days at the housing authority. Okay. Because they had rental housing that was available to people on Section 8, and they received grant funding from me actually to help develop some more houses. So I knew about them. So
Okay.
back then, and this was in the again in the late 80s into the early 90s, the organization was known as Ecumenical Housing Production Corporation.
Wow.
A marketer's dream.
Yeah.
So it was about people of all faiths coming together to produce affordable housing.
Okay.
So I knew about the organization. The founder was retiring. So I've never had lack of confidence, Steve, whether it was earned or not. I always had a little confidence that I could do stuff. So I put my hat in the ring. I was terribly unqualified in a whole bunch of different ways, but I had some skills that they were looking for too. So I was able to, convince them during the interview process that I knew what I didn't know, and I was going to get smart people around me. And once you get started in new positions like this, you find some mentors and you find some folks that can give you the kind of guidance and be humble. I always think leadership, Steve, is this interesting balance between hubris and humility. Right.
It is.
You have to have confidence to say, oh yeah, I can do that. We can do that. And then figure out how the hell you make it happen, but be humble enough to know, like, look, there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know, and I need some smart people around me to help move the organization forward and help us.
And you were young. You were in your 30s, like early 30s when you got the job.
I was 31 when I got the job. So they
as president, or you came in at something else?
Yeah. I came in as CEO. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
I could talk a good game, Steve. I could talk a good game.
So you're like, yes, I got the job. And then the next morning you wake up and you go, oh shit, I have no idea what I'm doing.
So literally I made 2 phone calls. The first one was to my then wife, which was great. Hey, honey, I got the job. The second call was to a guy I had just started taking some master's classes in public policy administration. There was this guy who ran the not-for-profit kind of institute at University of Missouri, St. Louis. And I called him up and I said, hey, John, they gave me the job. What do I do now? Right? So he gave me, I didn't know much about not-for-profits, right? So he gave me a crash course in that my 2-week window before I accepted the job when I started. And here's all the stuff you got to read. Here's the basic underpinning. So for the first year, I always tell people my main goal in life was just don't mess this up.
Nope. Yeah. Don't get fired. Just don't get fired.
It's a good organization. Don't mess this up. And after about a year, I'm like, I think I can do this.
Okay.
I haven't messed this up yet. So let's see what we can do. And it's been a great journey and a great run. And we've evolved and changed pretty dramatically. And I've had some some great mentors and some great people on the way. Actually, the guy who actually hired me was president of the board. Just passed away recently. Good guy, and his family knew how much I cared about him and what a great friend and mentor he was for me. So I got to see him one last time right before he passed. But
very good.
In life, if you're lucky, you get some people who see more in you than you really see in yourself. And they help build you and they help grow you and they give you time, because I think as I think the older we get, the one thing that we don't have enough of is time. And
got that right.
And if someone's willing to give you some of theirs to help you, it's a blessing, right? So I've been trying to pay that forward. For many years. I had a couple mentors that were just so kind and generous and thoughtful, and the kind of mentors that never told me what to do, but always pushed me and challenged me to think, all right, and to work through whatever the challenge of the day was, or whatever the issue was, and force me, like, people aren't going to hand you stuff on a plate. That's not how the world works, right? But they would do the great Socratic method of they'd ask me a whole bunch of questions that I'd have to answer. And then I'd get to the place they wanted me to get to without them telling me that, hey, that's where you should have got, 3 weeks ago when we started the doggone conversation. But
the ask versus tell leadership style, which I think is great. Yeah. If you can lead people by asking questions instead of just telling them and giving them the list, it really develops them a lot faster. Love that. Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
20 for the listeners, just so everybody knows, 29 years almost now, getting close to 30 years at Beyond Housing. And by the way, it's beyondhousing.org. They're in St. Louis. Now, Chris, would probably be a great time for you to kind of give us for the listeners, Beyond Housing elevator pitch, 3-minute overview, if you don't mind.
Sure, sure. Beyond Housing is a comprehensive community development organization whose mission is to strengthen families, transform communities, to create a more equitable, stronger, and prosperous St. Louis once and for all. The way we do that is that we have a targeted geography. It's in the inner ring suburbs here in St. Louis County, where we have a high degree of poverty, just like the urban core part of St. Louis. We picked a school district geography because that's where the kids are. That's how property values are set. That's where some of our biggest problems still remain. And then what we've done is listen to the voice of the people who live here, right? So again, this whole idea of leadership by asking, same thing we do in our work, right? We have a methodology called Ask, Align, and Act. Ask the folks who live here, tell us about the place you call home. What are the issues? What are the problems? But more importantly, what are the solutions? This community told us over a decade ago, boy, we'd love to see our housing get better, our public education system get better, our access to healthcare get better, our ability to attract and retain jobs get better, and how can we have more economic development opportunities for our community of about 36,000 people that live here. So in this past decade plus, we've invested about $175 million in this community, building new homes for home ownership, building homes to add to our rental portfolio. Now we have about 500 units in our rental portfolio, 400 single family homes, and 2 senior buildings that have about 100 units in them. We've rehabbed over 1,000 existing homes, homes that are, seniors and disabled homeowners live there. Most of them have raised their kids there. Kids now are long gone. These are these kind of post-World War II modest bungalows that working families have lived in for several generations. But now the home's starting to wear and tear. Folks don't have the resources. So we've given out grants to, again, over 1,000 existing homeowners, invested over $12 million in this particular piece of our work, right? Changing the built environment. We do economic development work. We've developed a grocery store, a movie theater, a health facility, a mixed use commercial retail space. Again, we're doing the kinds of things that create a sense of place, a sense of, how can we create a place where people want to live and want to stay and want to move to. I have 12 staff people embedded in the school systems, working on all the issues that kids and their families face each and every day. Our school district is provisionally accredited, which means it's got lots of problems. 100% of the kids that go to our schools receive free and reduced lunch, which means 100% of the kids live in poverty. So our job there is to see what's preventing the kids from accessing the educational opportunities the school system has for them. Sadly, kids are hungry. Sadly, kids need clean clothes. Sadly, kids need school uniforms and school supplies. Sadly, folks are worried about getting evicted, getting foreclosed, the car broke down, all the things in life that weigh heavy on families and make it difficult for children to be successful. We have a college savings program too up to high school. We've sent over 400 kids to college.
Nice.
We have over 100 college graduates now. We have our first doctor. We have our first doctor. He just finished got his doctorate of medicine from the University of Missouri at Columbia, and now he's heading to University of Wisconsin at Madison to do his practicum work. So again, the program works. It incentivizes kids. We do college visits. We help with the dreaded FAFSA. We help with ACT prep. We help with, again, a whole series of supports to help the kids and their families be successful. I have 2 community health workers on staff focusing on asthma and diabetes, 2 chronic diseases that plague poor communities and poor communities of color. We run an after-school program. We run a summer program. We run a baseball program with the St. Louis Cardinals called Redbird Rookies.
Oh, cool.
150 kids playing baseball every summer. Again, we have a food pantry. We have computer labs. We invest in this community in a way that they say, this is what we need to live our best lives. Here are the resources that would be helpful to, again, allow us to achieve our dreams and again, have this place that we call home be everything that we want it to be. So again, as the name implies, it's not just housing. Housing is certainly the biggest piece of what we do, but we know healthy places aren't just about buildings. They're about the families and the people that live there. It's about the educational system. It's about the infrastructure. It's about the sense of public safety. It's all those kinds of things that our organization plays a role in day in and day out.
And it's targeted in a school district, right? You're concentrated on a certain geographic area. Is that right?
Right. So here's what we know, and this is true, quite frankly. There's not one region in the country where this is not true. That as any region will have to admit, you're only going to progress so far if you keep leaving so many people behind. right? So to the extent that we have failed as a country in how do we tackle the issues of poverty and what it does to people and place. So what we're trying to do is create a model that says, here's how you get after what poverty does to a place and the people that live there. And it's not about gentrification, about, having property values rise because you're close to downtown or you're close to something else, right? No, it's about actually improving that situation of that place for the people that live there first and foremost. And if you attract other people, great. But if we don't do this, we believe yet again, there's another generation of kids that we're going to lose. There's another generation of who knows who could have been there, right? What doctor, what scientist, what tech guy, right? Who knows all these opportunities that have been lost because again, we didn't invest in our children, in our communities. So every day out my window here, I see kids walking to and from school. We have an elementary school right down the street. We built about 100 homes in about a 4-block radius of where I'm at right now. We built a park. We have our first senior building. The kids deserve better than they're getting today from all of us adults. So it motivates and drives me every day that, collectively, we all have to do better. Collectively, we have to be willing to again, change the status quo. The phrase we use now is once and for all. I'm tired of, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. I'm tired of having good individual success because we've had lots of success helping people become homeowners, moving families along, sending kids to college, building new homes. Have a lot of great success that we deem on some levels transactional. But we want to do transformational work at the community level so we can have transformational outcomes and we can have community level change.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, but before we do that, and there's another website called onceandforall.org, and how is that tied into Beyond Housing or different?
Yeah, it's tied in, right? So Once and For All is our campaign. So what we're trying to do is tell the St. Louis region and others that, look, this idea we have, this approach, this methodology, the success we've had is not just for our community. It's for the entire St. Louis region, and we think it's replicatable all across the country. So we didn't want to narrow the discourse to one small place. We wanted the conversation to be big. We wanted the content to be big. The way we're pitched this out in the community is, again, we do things a different way. So the way we pitch it in the community, we will continue to pitch it, is a not-for-profit IPO. So the idea here is the way IPOs work in the private sector, the for-profit world, is strong company, strong product, strong management team, strong balance sheet, but doesn't have the annual revenue growth to see scalable work inside that company. Well, that's us on a not-for-profit basis, right?
I see.
So what we want to do is have people invest in us, and now you can get an ROI with us too, right? So the idea of an IPO is you get a return. So look, if I build housing, rehab housing, if I build a grocery store and a movie theater, I'm borrowing money from somebody to get that done. If you want to lend us money at a below market interest rate, then I'm going to pay you back.
I see.
And you can check my financials. We're good for it.
I see.
But you can also get an ROI in human terms, right?
That's the biggest part.
I'll show you the improvement of lives of kids who come to our after school program. I can show you the reduction in the recidivism rate of folks going back to the ER through our community health worker program by helping them, again, lead a healthier life. I can show you the increase in property values when we build new homes. I can show you the healthier lives that seniors live when they live in our senior buildings, right? You have a whole lot of metrics around an ROI if you help fund the growth and scalability of our human service delivery system. But not only us, but many of my not-for-profit partners that work with us.
So you're funded by the private donations, grants, and you're also you're
earned income.
What's that?
Earned income. Yeah, earned income, right? Yeah, we own a lot of real estate, and people pay us rent.
Okay, gotcha. So the real estate is a profit model for you because you use the money to buy these houses, fix them up, and then they pay rent, and then you're gaining some margin back on that. Am I understanding?
Some margin. Yeah, some margin. There ain't a lot. If there was a lot, I'd be doing a lot more of it. But there's some margin. But again, given where we operate, the backside valuation is not yet strong enough to give me a bigger margin. Now, the hope is over time that again, asset valuation goes up, and we derive the benefit of that long term.
Okay. And you mentioned ROI. So you telling me that if I donate, there's some sort of return on investment back to me as a private donator? Did I understand that correctly?
So it all depends on what kind of ROI you want. If you want a financial return, I'll plug you into my real estate development work, and we'll say, okay, if you lend me X amount of dollars at a below market interest rate, we have it pegged to 1/3 of the Wall Street Journal Prime. I'm going to pay you back over the terms and conditions that we agreed. If you invest in us, and if you invest in the people side of it, you can count on me on an annualized basis telling you, here is the return on your investment in people's lives. And again, if we don't perform, because one of the things not-for-profits aren't really good at is, if we don't perform, there should be a price to pay, right? Again, you can't keep asking people for money if you're not delivering what you said you're going to do, right? So I'm a big fan of hold us accountable. I hold my team accountable for, we've owned our programmatic work for a lot of years now, and we're pretty confident that if we get the right resources, we can see a change in somebody's life, and we're gonna reflect that to you on an annualized basis. And again, that's your ROI.
Is a large part of your job as the CEO and president fundraising, or do you spend a lot of time talking to family offices and wealthy individuals and saying, "Hey, John, come on, man,
I'm the lead salesman."
Somebody's got to do it, right?
That's just the job. Again, so much of any not-for-profits capacity is the resources it can generate. And the only way you generate resources is by telling the story. Now, we historically have not done a lot of federal funding intentionally because of all the bureaucracy, but we know now if we want to get to scale, we have to. So the last 3 to 5 years, we've gotten grants from the Department of Justice, working with some of our local police departments. We've gotten grants from the EPA. I didn't tell you I have the forestry division in our work here in this community. We planted over 1,000. We planted over 1,000 trees in this community. We pruned over 2,000 trees, and we've taken down 800 trees that were sick and dying.
Cool.
A healthy tree canopy does a whole bunch of stuff, including taking toxins out of the air, because we know low-income kids struggle with asthma on a regular basis, and asthma is one of the biggest reasons why kids miss school. So again, the whole idea here is, again, how do you invest and look at all the things across what makes up a successful, vibrant, and healthy place?
Very good. I want to ask you some questions here on the emotional aspect of it. You've probably seen, you could probably tell stories for hours and hours and hours about families and kids and devastating stories, right? Is there a couple of success stories in particular beyond the doctor that you mentioned? Is there a couple that you want to share?
Yeah. One of my favorites, and it's living out in front of us as we speak. So right now, my office is in an old renovated school building. It's a 42,000 square foot, circa 1937 school building that we bought from the school district about 8 years ago when they were in jeopardy of going bankrupt. So we had to buy some of their vacant assets. So in the space, we have about 100 full-time staff here at Beyond Housing, but I have my maintenance guys in another building. I have other staff kind of in the field. So I have some space here to rent. So one of our new renters is a brand new not-for-profit called the Children's Therapeutic Center. They do mental health trauma counseling for kids under the age of 5. So the story behind this is the woman who runs it. Her name is Tawana Jones. She's in her mid-30s at this point. She grew up in our rental housing. Her and her 3 sisters and her mom came to us when she was probably 8, 9 years old, and they were homeless. And came to us, and we helped the family out, and we helped mom get back on her feet. And we helped her get some job skills and helped her with some job training. And we actually employed her for a while, and she wound up just being wildly successful. She wound up buying her own home, moving out of our rental house. All 4 of the girls have college degrees, all 3 of them. 3 of them are homeowners. Tawana has her master's in social work. She's worked at St. Louis Children's Hospital for over a decade. And now she wants to come back and give back. And she has an office. She has an office in our building, and I see her on a regular basis. And I've literally known her since she was, probably I think it was 8 or 9 when she and I first met way back in the days.
I love that. I love that. Great.
That's a full circle story around. Again, if you invest and care about people, they can do great things. And we don't invest enough in people. We don't care enough about our neighbors. We spend a ridiculous amount of money on a whole bunch of other things, with the irony being we all benefit, right? When people do well, we all benefit. It's just it's a pretty simple concept, and where the money in our country goes is sometimes just staggering, and I don't quite understand it. But again,
yeah, I want to ask you about that. Let me do this. There had to be times when you went home at night after seeing something devastating, and you go home to your children, your wife, and your home, and you know, you just well up with emotion, right? Because you walked away from seeing a very tragic situation of severe poverty, and then you go home to your family and you're feeling super blessed, and you're tearing up about, you know, what you walked away from that day. There had to be a lot of that. I don't know how you handle that emotionally.
So there is, but for me, it's all about, I know what we're doing is making a difference. And my driver is, how do we do more, right? How do we get better at it, right?
Okay.
How do I tell the story so other people care enough to support us? I couldn't let myself get down too often or too deep, because I knew my job is to make sure I'm lifting everybody else, right? As a leader, look, everybody's looking at you, right? Look, if my demeanor even changes slightly, people are like, you okay? What's wrong? I'm like, I'm okay, right? So, you know, people are always, you know, and look, it's like your children. They may not always listen to what you're saying, but they're watching you, right?
Oh, it's a good point.
Right.
Good point.
Right. So again, as a leader, I am real clear that I set the tone. And if people hear me getting down, if people hear me, you know, bitch and moan about, oh, this is not working and that's not working, and woe is us, then they're going to mimic that. What they hear from me all the time is, one, give me your best.
Okay.
Give me the best you got every day. As an organization, we're going to support you. We're going to care about you. We're going to do right by you. But in return, I need your best, because the people we serve need us to be at our best every day. And if I don't exhibit that, then everyone else can say, well, why should I do it if that guy doesn't do it?
Does it bother you to see the gap in wealth from severe poverty to then sitting down at dinner with a billionaire to ask them to donate? Does it, do you look at that from a holistic perspective and think, damn, this just doesn't seem right? I'm sitting next to a billionaire asking him to write a check. Meanwhile, I just walked away from a family that can't even afford housing, and it should be more balanced. Does that bother you? Yeah.
Yep. The inequities of opportunity is the biggest issue for me, Steve. It's not as if that billionaire, and maybe it's all earned and, you know, bootstrap, but I'm willing to bet
a lot of times it's not.
Yeah. What I try to tell people is, imagine if you lived this life, right? And you grew up in this situation. Please tell me that, oh yeah, you'll be right where you're at today. No, that's not. No. Maybe, right? And it doesn't mean you haven't worked hard, and that doesn't mean any of that. It just means, let's be clear. The challenges that so many poor folks face, Black or white, or brown, or urban, suburban, rural, doesn't matter, right? To systemically get past where you're at the day you were born is extremely difficult, and it's rare. And we as a country should be saying, we need to level off the equity of opportunity. So yes, it's going to be more about your talent, your skill, your hard work, your dedication than it is who are your parents and what zip code were you born in.
If you had a magic wand, this is going to be a sensitive topic. I don't know if you want to answer this one. If you had a magic wand, would you take all the money from everybody in the world and kind of even it out for an even playing field, and have a what they call a universal pay for everybody, and kind of spread the money evenly? I don't know if I'm using the right words. Would you do that if you could, if you had the power?
Now, look, I'm not a big fan of, you know, communism or socialism, right? Where we're all the same, right? But what I think is important is we have the same opportunities to achieve great things.
Okay.
And right now, those opportunities don't exist. So the challenge becomes, how do we go from where we're at today, which was kind of a bastardizing of our system, right? Where we let capitalism run amok, right? Capitalism works if there's the right guardrails. Capitalism can't be unfettered because we see what happens. So put up the right guardrails without being too intrusive to allow ingenuity and innovation and entrepreneurialism and hard work, right? All of that still should be the case, but everybody should have that opportunity. And right now, if you're born in a low-income community, the prospect of you doing well in life is so significantly different than if you were born in a wealthy community. I mean, why do we fund our public schools based upon the local tax base? We're just going to continue to then say that places that have money will continue to have the best educational opportunities, will continue to have more family stability, will continue to have, again, more opportunities offered to the children of that place than that place that's 5 miles down the road that typically will be a community of color, typically. There are certainly a lot of rural poor places too that have the same issues that people of color do who are living in poverty. That place does not have the same, again, equity of opportunity. That again,
so you would you change that if you had the opportunity? Would you say, hey, look,
the public school funding, I would. What I would do with public school funding is from a tax-based standpoint, let's level it off. And look, I'm okay giving a bit of a vig to those who got, again, who have higher property values and want a little bit more, but it should be a whole heck of a lot closer than it is now. Because if it's meant to be public education, right? And the idea of public is that there's a degree of equity involved there, right? And if we don't, and again, invest in our kids, like what's going to happen? What's going to happen to our communities and to our country if we don't invest in our kids? If we only invest in a portion of our kids, it doesn't make any sense. Look, we know the science says high quality pre-K is the best thing we can do for our children. The science is in. No more research is needed, necessary. As a country, do we do it? No.
Let me ask you this. Right? Let me ask you this. Would you, you see poverty every day. Does it bother you that, this is another touchy one, I don't know if you want to skip this one, but does it bother you that we sent $40 billion to Ukraine when you need a lot of money right there in your own neighborhood? When you see stuff like that, what's your emotional reaction to that?
Yeah. So again, I wish we didn't have to. I wish we could put that money here. I wish we could make 40 billion happen for communities we work in as fast as they made 40 happen for Ukraine. But I understand why, if we're going to live up to who we say we are, right? If we're going to live up to that precept that we're the greatest nation on the planet, we have to do that kind of stuff, but not at the exclusion of taking care of communities back home. See, I'm a big fan of an and both versus either or, right? I'm not an economist. I'm not terribly worried about deficits. Last I checked, we always have a way to pay our bills, right? So I'm not worried about deficits. Now, that doesn't mean to run amok and not have any sense of what the deficit looks like, right? But the way our economy works is we can rack up a pretty good deficit, and over time there'll be some equilibrium. If we imagine if we invested in neighborhoods and kids, the reduction in our prison system, the increase in educational opportunities, the increase in the number of smart, talented people who are going to be in all of our industries. Imagine what that economic boost will be for all of us if we invest in those that we are not investing in now. It's not rocket science, right? And why
don't we? And didn't we just prove as a country the last 2 years that we can just print money anytime we want to pay for whatever during COVID? And why can't we just make that type of investment in these neighborhoods? Why can't we do that right now?
Right. And be smart, be wise, and we can. Right. I think one of our biggest problems in our country now is we are bereft of leadership. Certainly in the public sector. I mean, that's a pox on both their houses, right?
Yep.
In terms of not doing the kinds of things to actually lead and govern, and again allow us to live up to, we are the greatest nation, in the world. When you look at the data on our quality of life and metrics, we're not the greatest nation in the country. Come on.
Yeah.
When you look at health, when you look at income, there's a whole series of things. We're nowhere close to being the greatest nation on the country. Now, do we have the greatest capitalist system that generates the most income? Yep. Does that make us the greatest country on the planet in terms of how we take care of each other? It does not.
Ooh, that's
right?
a good one. Right? That's a good one right there, Chris. and yeah, I'm not a socialist either, and or a communist or anything like that. And I would also have a problem with leveling income across the planet for everybody. I don't, yeah, I would have a problem voting for that. But I will say this, and by the way, generally I lean kind of right middle most of the time. But I will say, I was in Naples, Florida, a couple of years ago, and I don't know if you've been to Naples, but you can go from extreme wealth to poverty in about 5 minutes. if you're going from the coastline on the bay
Sure.
side inland. And
Sure.
I remember driving that route because I was down there for some business, and I just had this very deep emotional feeling like, man, this just doesn't seem right. Like as a human being, I just went from extreme wealth, and now I'm pulling into this little convenience store and watching, four Hispanic guys climb out of the back of a truck that just got done, working yards all day. And it bothered me. Like it bothered me. And I have, so I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that when I see that, I think, man, can't we do better? Can't we do better?
Well, look, well, I mean, like Steve, like, why do we have a problem with homelessness in this country?
Yeah. Why do we?
Because we don't invest in producing homes.
Exactly.
Right.
Well,
Look. So here's a fact for your listeners. The department in our government where we produce more affordable housing than any other arm of the government is the IRS. You know why? Because they give out tax credits. It's not HUD. It's not anybody else. Right. If we believe in it, then we need to invest in it. Right. Too many of us have become so jaded now when we see homeless folks that we just turn a blind eye. Right. It's like wallpaper now. Well, we just kind of see that. That's somebody's son. That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's father. That's somebody's mother. And I don't know their story. And I don't know their journey. And I'm not going to, cast aspersions. I don't know. Who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I to say? But if your life has gotten you to the place where you're panhandling on the corner and you get ignored by, I'm going to say 98% of the people who you look at, and the degradation that you have to go through every day to get people to give you a little bit of help. I'm like, I don't care what you do with the $1 bill, the $5 I give you. I don't care. Right. If life has gotten that bad, who am I to say what your story is? But what I do know is as a country, you should have a place to live. Doesn't not have to be grand and glorious, but you shouldn't be on this street corner with a cardboard sign saying, God bless you, please help me. Come on.
And should you have to contribute back in some way to get that housing? Should you have to do something besides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't just sit on the couch and watch TV all day.
No,
you gotta do something.
No. Yeah,
you gotta do something.
Absolutely. I mean, look, there's this stigma that folks don't want to work, and who just want somebody to pay the bills. Is there a small portion? Of course, right? But is that most? The answer
it's not the majority. It's not the majority.
No. And you know what? We're talking about mental illness. We're talking about drug issues. We're talking about all different kinds of things that treat that stuff, right? Treat that real life stuff to help people get back on their feet and give them an opportunity to live their best possible lives. And I guarantee you, a significant majority of them will do that. Everybody, no.
You've seen that. You've seen that.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. That's good to hear. So when you see, and I know we're bumping up on time, but I want to get this in. When you see a mother with a child that needs housing, and she's in a bad situation, most of the time, is it A, because of where she was born and the family she grew up in, B, because of her color of her skin, or C, because of a mental problem? I'm wondering how big the mental aspect is versus where they were born.
It's mostly A and B, but C is growing pretty dramatically.
Okay. Yeah, the mental aspect, because I had a guy on the podcast recently, and he said, hey, look, he's like, here's the deal. People don't choose to be homeless unless there's a mental. If there's a mental problem, then yes, sometimes they'll want to be homeless, or they think they want to be homeless because they just want to live on the street because there's a mental problem. But folks that don't have a mental issue don't want to be homeless.
No,
That-
no, no, no. Who wants that? Like, that's not a life. Look, nobody wants to be poor. Being poor is hard, right?
Yeah, right.
Who wants to struggle every day? I mean, literally, I'm like, look, you and I may have our challenges every now and again, right? But imagine if you were living in poverty and every day was a struggle. I mean, look, the strength it takes to get up one more time when you know what's ahead of you, it's going to be hard as hell. And to have the strength to keep doing that, the resilience that it takes, the grit that it takes is, I think, a lot more than a lot of us folks who've had the luxury of having parents who cared about them and having lots of things that have been supportive along the way.
Two last questions. The first of these two we could do an hour on, but I just want you to try to give me a short answer. If you were the governor of California right now today, what would you do about all these tents and these homeless people, especially the ones specifically that are in Ventura, California or whatever, and they're popping tents on the lawns of $1 million homes. And so you got all these rich people that are pissed off because the tents are along the grass. Like, what would you do about that if you were the governor of California?
Well, again, it's this mismatch between supply and demand, right? It's a business challenge, right? So again, because of housing prices and what people can pay, because again of the inequity of opportunities, unless we find out where's that gap that produces more units and gets people access to more resources so they can pay. Again, something that resembles market rate, we're going to continue to have the problem. We've let this elasticity of supply and demand has gotten so tight that we got this big giant gap, right? And it didn't happen overnight. We can't fix it overnight. California has tried to put a lot of money in housing production. It ain't enough, right? Now, on the flip side, they got to put money in how are we training folks, educating folks so they can earn an income that can allow them to pay something that resembles market rate. And again, it's about investment in things that we know work, right? So again, it's this once and for all idea, right? To invest in families, what do they need, right? Well, that they need a good underpinning. You need family stability. So what's going on in the family? You need housing stability. You need financial stability. And then again, you need neighborhood stability. All those things we know how to do if we have the courage to invest. It's not about money alone. It's about how that money is invested and how do you understand the fabric that makes up a healthy family and a healthy community, and only invest in those things that's going to promote that healthy family and that healthy neighborhood.
I wish more people that had money would get involved. It really bothers me, especially, and I live in Colorado for the listeners, when I'm talking to one of my millionaire friends that live in Boulder, Colorado, and they're virtue signaling about how they want to help homeless people. Meanwhile, if a tent plopped in their front yard, they'd be pissed off and they wouldn't do anything about it. Right. And so I just wish more people would get tactically involved. So last question here. Chris, I could keep you on the podcast for another 2 hours. Great interview. How do you define in a sentence, like your core purpose in life moving forward from here? If you had to describe that or put it in a sentence, what does it sound like for Chris, your core purpose?
So where I'm at today, it's and I'm not a religious guy,
Okay.
but I do love Micah 6:8, which is do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. So the idea of do justice is this work, right? I think it is just to help people live their best possible lives. I think it's just to, again, build affordable housing and support kids in schools and help families be healthy. Again, love mercy, right? At the end of the day, again, our generation, my dad's generation, didn't use the word love a lot because it just wasn't a thing.
Right. You got that right, buddy.
Wasn't a thing, right?
No.
I tell lots of people now that I love them that probably 20 years ago, I wouldn't even thought about saying it because I think it's important. I just think important. We have to take care of each other. We have to love each other. And then walk humbly, right? So at the end of the day, look, we only have a short time on this spinning thing we're on. And if we go through it being humble and recognizing we've been blessed in a lot of ways, and if we could give those blessings forward and improve somebody's day, whether that's a simple thing you do each and every day, or if it's a big thing you spend your life doing, both things are needed and necessary.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing your story on the Riderflex podcast. I really appreciate it.
It's great being with you, Steve.